Sophia's Secret Wisdom is a movie, book, and internet project designed to encourage peace by telling the stories of the early desert Christian fathers and mothers and the communities that still exist today.
Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom, and one of the things that guides our film is the attempt to find out what it is that moves and motivates these men and women of ancient times and today for the quest for peacefulness in an often tortured world.
John, would you please tell us about some of the places we'll be visiting?
Well, we hope to begin our travels in Egypt, one of the great birthplaces of the monastic movement. The first monk, Anthony, started his career in deserted forts, and there are extraordinary stories about him. But one of the most visually stunning places is the extraordinary monastery of St. Catherine's at Sinai, built by the Emperor Justinian in the 6th century. It has remained virtually untouched to this day.
St. Catherine's, isn't that where Moses encountered the burning bush?
And the monks have a chapel claiming to be on the site of the burning bush itself. It's also a great centre of monastic life in antiquity.
And one of my favorites is the story of St. John Climacus and his book, The Ladder of Divine Ascent.
John was one of the 7th century abbots of that monastery and wrote perhaps the most important book in the history of the monastic life. He called it a ladder to scale the heights of God. And to this day, monks and nuns throughout the Eastern Christian world use his book, The Ladder, as a manual of finding inner peace.
Sort of a prayer guide and self-help manual for monks and nuns?
Exactly. 39 steps to God.
And from Egypt, we'll go to Israel.
It was known in antiquity as Roman Palestine, became a major center of the monastic life, focused around the Jerusalem as a holy city where the Christian pilgrims came. There are extraordinary monasteries there. We'll be looking at two in particular. St. George Koshiba in the dry valley near Jerusalem, and also Mar Saba's monastery near Bethlehem.
And then on to Kiev in the Ukraine.
Yes, Kiev is the ancient capital of ancient Russia. From the 9th and 10th centuries, Christianity was spreading northwards and went into the Slavic lands. Our journey takes us away from the heat of the Mediterranean and the great monasteries there into the frozen wildernesses of the north. The first place, the birthplace of Christianity in ancient Russia, was Kiev. And there on the banks of the river Dnieper, the first monastery in Russia was built, carved out of the cliff. And here we find, going down many, many hundreds of feet, are the mummified bodies of the earliest monks, each in their own little cell. It's quite eerie and awesome.
And then to Russia, in Moscow.
And here we'll go to the great monastery of Sergei Posad, named after Saint Sergius.
One of my favorite stories is of the young man, the illiterate Bartholomew, and how he encountered a monk in the field one day.
The story goes of the youth Bartholomew that he grew up in a wilderness farm, had no one to teach him his letters, but he felt impelled to witness to God and was broken-hearted because without literacy he wouldn't be able to do anything. And the story goes that when he was leading the cows to pasture one day, an old hermit appeared to him and showed him a book of letters. And within an afternoon, the child got the point, learned how to read and write, and became one of the greatest monastic teachers of Russia. His monastery now is on the outskirts of Moscow, and a vast repository of documents and art.
Then we go to Greece and the magnificent monasteries of Mount Athos.
Mount Athos is a most wonderful place. It still follows the rhythms and rituals of life 1,000 years ago. It's perhaps the last surviving place on earth that the Byzantine Empire continues to this day.
And there's the story of St. Athanasius.
Athanasius the Athenite was the founder of the largest monastery. It's known as the Great Lavra on Mount Athos. He was patronized by Emperor Nikephoros Phocas, in the 10th century, who was known as the White Death of the Saracens.
And then finally, we end our journey for the moment in Romania and the magnificent painted churches of Romania.
Romania is one of the few Gothic Orthodox countries in the world. The churches have spires that reach up to the heavens. Often they're made out of wood. We have in northern Romania a World Heritage Centre. UNESCO's recognized the exquisite beauty of those churches. And sometimes they're painted on the outside. The paint on the inside of the church over hundreds and hundreds of years has worn away with incense and so on, but the outside is as fresh as the day it was painted.
We sincerely hope that you'll support our efforts to document these amazingly beautiful and important places of peace.
And we not only want to make a record of this wonderful art and history, but also to try and enter into the inner spirit of a Christian culture that sought for peace and reconciliation, often in a troubled and tormented world.
Thank you for watching.